We have some breaking news here in the UK. A jury in Sheffield has found that 12-year-old Mia Lucas was failed on multiple levels. There are statements on the court steps.
At the Queen's Medical Centre in Nottingham, which decided there was no underlying physical cause of her psychosis. We heard evidence from experts that Queen's Medical Centre should have carried out more investigations than the blood test and MRI scan which were performed before Mia was transferred to the Becton Centre mental health facility in Sheffield. Had a fluid test through a lumbar puncture being taken and a brain wave scan, her condition may have been identified and treated successfully. We've heard many comments about lessons being learned as a result of what happened to Mia, and those learnings will hopefully help to avoid other families losing their children to the condition, as they will hopefully receive the required testing and treatment in hospital that they need. Nothing, however, can change the impact on Mia and her loved ones. Mia lost her life, and her family lost a beautiful girl. When they needed specialist healthcare support, it failed, both at Queen's Medical Centre and at the Becton Centre, where numerous failings to properly observe and protect Mia from self-harm, alongside poor communication between staff, have been identified. We will continue to support Chloe in seeking full justice and accountability.
For the past 2 weeks, the world has seen many pictures of my beautiful little girl, Mia, in the media. Pictures which have shown exactly the kind of girl she was, a happy, fun, friendly girl who had so much to live for. Mia lost her life through an illness, a rare brain condition, and a failure to provide appropriate care to her in her time of need. Her illness led to a sudden change in her character and behaviour, causing extreme emotional outbursts. We want everyone to know that Mia was like this for only the few final weeks of her life when she was seriously ill, and that is why we sought specialist help for her. Her family, and that's how we want her to be remembered. These past 2 weeks have been at times unbearable, sitting and listening to how Mia was failed. It has been devastating to listen to how, when she needed the specialist healthcare for the first time in her life, she was so badly let down. She was let down at the Queen's Medical Centre in Nottingham, who wrongly decided there was no underlying physical cause of her psychosis and failed to carry out appropriate testing. I believe they simply dismissed her and looked to pass her on to mental health services as quickly as possible, which led to her transfer to the Becton Centre. Her mental health spiralled deeper out of control there, as she was not being treated for her condition, and the many failings and lack of care meant sadly she wasn't properly protected from harming herself. We now know that Mia was suffering from a treatable brain condition, autoimmune encephalitis, which we as a family have only just found out this week during the inquest. Yet she was sectioned to the Becton Centre, a facility which proved to be completely unsuitable for her and one which failed to keep her safe. Mia's medical cause of death, changing now, nearly 2 years later after her passing, is heartbreaking, but also shows the failures and the fight that we've had to endure. My beautiful little girl has lost her life, and I will never forgive the Queen's Medical Centre or the Becton Centre for failing her. Whilst Mia was let down by so many, we want to thank those who have worked so hard to bring out the truth. Firstly, our legal team, Amy Rossell of Hudgell Solicitors and Karen Boyle of Park Lane Plowden, who have been by our side throughout and ensured this inquest has heard the evidence it needed to. I also want to personally thank pathologist Professor Marta Cohen, who was so passionate and determined to get to the root cause of Mia's illness, leading to confirmation that Mia had autoimmune encephalitis. I have never believed for a moment that Mia ever wanted to take her own life. She was always a happy, healthy child and had so much to live for. I have agreed that Mia's samples, which were frozen after her death, can now be used for further research and educational purposes to help others. I'll continue to fight for full accountability and justice for Mia being denied the amazing life I know she would have gone to enjoy.
Well, a very emotional statement by the mum of Mia Lucas, who's we've just heard from this inquest that at Becton Centre under Sheffield Children's NHS Foundation Trust, she was failed. Astonishing story. Let's bring in my colleague Greg Milam, who's been covering this case. And Greg, this is a desperately sad case about a little girl who had self-harmed and taken her own life. But it now appears that not only was she failed because she was allowed access to materials to allow her to do that while she was in care, but that her parents have found out at this inquest 2 years after her death that she had a brain encephalitis, which had changed her personality. It's astonishing that they found this out 2 years down the line.
Yeah, during the course of this inquest, Mia Lucas was 12 years old, as you say, when she was found unresponsive in her room at a mental health unit here in Sheffield. In the weeks leading up to that, she died the following day, actually, but in the weeks leading up to that, her personality had changed. She'd become very erratic. She'd been hearing voices. She'd been talking about self-harming. She'd been violent towards her family. She'd been trying to seek out knives. For that reason, she was sectioned and taken to that unit. But the hospital, the Queen's Medical Centre in Nottingham, at that stage said it had found no physical cause for that, what was diagnosed as acute psychosis, no physical cause for that. But during this inquest, new testing, which had been carried out, to everyone's surprise, came back with the result that she, in fact, was suffering from a rare brain disorder, this autoimmune encephalopathy. It causes swelling of the brain. It's known to cause psychiatric conditions, including psychosis. Her family had always thought there was more to it, as you heard there from her mum, Chloe. They didn't believe she was someone who intended to take her life. They thought there was something more to it, and the confirmation came during this inquest. A paediatric neurologist told the inquest, actually, that it was concerning that tests weren't carried out by the hospital, the Queen's Medical Centre in Nottingham, to see if there was this condition. But he did accept that it is a very rare condition. She wasn't showing any of the symptoms like tremors or seizures, and that the drugs for it have high side effects. So it was difficult. It's a rare condition. It's very hard to spot. But as you heard from her family, they believe her death was preventable because she could have been treated had they known that condition existed. The jury has come back with a narrative verdict today, saying that failure to carry out tests, in particular a lumbar puncture, may well have meant that indications were missed, and that possibly contributed to Mia's death. They also say that there was a lack of detail in what was passed on to the detention centre here about whether organic causes could possibly have been at the root of this, and they say she had made a number of attempts on her life in that detention centre. There were insufficient communications between staff, a failure to respond possibly as a result of that. The coroner has been told that improvements have been made both at the hospital and at that detention centre, but she wants national guidance on how to look for this condition. The hows and whys, of course, for Mia's family, as you heard just there, very significant even now, nearly 2 years on.